Hi everybody. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend. I'm always a little bit on the, I wouldn't say stage fright. That's probably way overstating it. I'm not nervous, but it's kind of a mix between rustiness and kind of slightly, I don't know, on a Monday. So anyway, I wanted to kick things off. I just figured out 5 seconds before I went live by looking at something I tweeted a while ago. And by the way, give me a 5x5 if you can hear me. Everything's okay. Oh, cool. Thank you. Something that I just put up on Twitter a while ago, and just I'm kind of interested in myself. I put up a tweet asking for the best Irish film ever made, because I was kind of just thinking about it a little bit, and I have 12 likes, 1 retweet, and 42 replies. So it was mainly people replying, and I like to see that, people contributing. And we have some suggestions, so we may as well just go through them. So yeah, because why not? So Eat the Peach is one, which I hope no one's taking the piss out of me there. Apparently that's an Irish film. I'm going to look it up. As I said, you can see it in the title of this video. It is called a Cosystream, and it does what it says on the tin, where I behave very cozily. Eat the I wrote in eat the stream. Eat the peach. Okay, so it is a film. 2 young Irish men are watching an old Elvis Presley movie in which a carnival cyclist performs an act called the Wall of Death. So okay, so they're trying to replicate the Wall of Death, and it's a kind of a fun, kind of like a Mighty Ducks type thing, I'd say. I'm guessing. Martial law here, a commenter says that's the road between Lewisburg and Lannan, and I was intending to say yeah. Now that's not my own picture. I'm sure I probably have a few pictures from there, but I just grabbed that off Google. But it's one of my favorite passages in Ireland, one of my favorite places. Drive from Lewisburg to Lannan on any kind of day, really, but a nice day. It's gorgeous. It's very nice. Actually, it's a point I've had in my mind. I don't know how it came up. I was in a chat group, or I was talking to someone, actually speaking to someone over the weekend, and it was I was just ranting about how the best way to like fall in love with the country, and I've said this before, is to travel around it, which is a luxury, I suppose, but like, you know, especially now we can't do it, but in general, if you can, fill your car up with petrol. Driving is ideal as well, more than any other form of transport. The freedom of driving, if you can. If you don't drive, get someone who does. Road trip with your friends. If you don't have friends, find some people who'd like to travel Ireland. They can be your friends. But yeah, it's a really nice way. It's kind of almost like the loftiness of patriotism. Like for me, for example, I only have a couple of Focalas Gaeilge. I don't have this rich like knowledge of pagan Irish history and like a deep knowledge of it. Nor do I even know about the independence movement in Ireland. I obviously know about it, but I couldn't tell you every last detail. I'm not some connoisseur of it. I'm not. But I don't think patriotism should depend on the kind of, at least not exclusively on that aspect. It should be natural, and it should be about to me, it should be about the land and the place that you kind of call home and getting to know it. And it's just a really nice thing to do. And specifically the West Coast as well. I was thinking about how the West Coast of Ireland is like a world treasure. You know, it's like the French Riviera or Victoria Falls or whatever. People look at the west of Ireland that way, so we have it right there. Sounds like a tourism ad, but it's like, if you don't go there often enough, you'll forget about it. And when you do arrive back, you're like, holy shit. I see we have Jan in the chat. Good man, Jan. So he says someone saying it's Lewisburg, not Lewisburg. I don't know if I said it one way or the other, but Lewisburg. I think I say Lewisburg anyway. Personally, that's the way I've always known it. But anyway, that's that. I don't know. That's what my thumbnail is. That's my thought behind it. And what was I getting onto? Oh yeah, Irish films. So there's that Eat the Peach thing. We have Michael Collins. So what I'm noticing is that it's a lot of it's a lot of the films that were just on TV, which I suppose is all the Irish films. So I shouldn't be surprised there. But I was kind of hoping in a way that someone would answer a film that isn't one of the ones we know about. Song for a Raggy Boy, blah 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 blah. Like my favorite Irish film is the one that was on the telly 20 times when I was growing up. Which is, I mean, it might be your favorite film and it might be a really good film, but I was thinking, are there any films that aren't those ones? Ones that were just something a bit independent and not, in a way, almost something that was never really revered by the RTE set as much, or whatever. I see now my phone is dying. There's nothing I can do about it, but I could sign in here. But Michael Collins, My Left Foot. I've never seen My Left Foot. By the way, I am going to get onto other things and stuff. The things I have prepped for tonight here and my screenshots or my screen share, the thing I usually do, is so wide ranging and just random bits that there's no point me going over it and like pointing out what I'm going to talk about tonight, because it's not like thematic or whatever. It's just a bunch of different things. So anyway, My Left Foot, never seen that, and I must. War of the Buttons, I've never seen that, and apparently everybody's cousin was in that, including me, including my neighbours, and everybody seemed to have been in that, but I've never actually seen it. Graham Reardon says, you've never seen My Left Foot. Come on, Gerald. I know, sorry about it, but I'll get around to it, I'm sure. The Field, I do like The Field. I love The Field. I obviously love that scene, that bit, that where Bull speaks to the priest and the local guy, where he says, law of the land or whatever, that one. Ryan's Daughter, that's the one, the kind of American one. The General. Gangland stuff never really got me. Song for a Raggy Boy, I think I've seen that on the telly when I was maybe 14 or one of those kind of ages. So I don't remember it. What Richard Did is about a posh South Dublin fella who kills someone, I think. I remember seeing that. And it was a little bit on the dry side for me, personally. So there we go. We have Into the West. That's Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, I think. Do you know what? I actually kind of like that. Wind That Shakes the Barley. What is it that I didn't like about this? Oh, controversial opinion. I think I'll get in trouble for this one. I don't like. Well, I like it, but When That Shakes the Barley, the only qualm I have with it is that it's and this is a controversial statement, is that it's too anti-British, and I'm not saying that from an Anglophile perspective at all. You have to understand the nuance in what I'm saying. It's not that it's anti-British. Like, I inherently have a problem with that. If a thing had a bias to be a bit anti-British, that's fine. But there's something about that film takes the mick out of it, no pun intended, so much. That it, not at a nationalistic level, just at a film viewer level, I'm watching it going, this feels a bit cartoonish, doesn't it? The bit at the start where all the lads are like, and I know the black and tans were crazy, but like, it's a bit, there's the kind of landlordy fat guy who like gets shot, I think. He's like a toffee-nosed kind of Brit kind of guy, and then there's the guys who are like, get out, you McBastard. And all those characters are a bit too, every British character in it is a bit like that, and it's just, I don't know, it's a bit silly. Something about that film is not quite my cup of tea, and it's not just that for that reason. It's, I don't know, it's grand though, it's fine. The Cork accents are funny, I suppose. So what else have we got here? War of the Buttons again. Intermission is funny. I like that scene in Intermission where the Cillian Murphy is in the bar and the owl one is kind of trying to crack onto him. That's kind of funny. A lot of that film is very good. So I might as well finish this now. Adam and Paul as a Hidden Gem. Yeah, I like that film, but I think these glasses fucking won't clean. Like, anyway, what's his name? They got one of the guys who like made that filmed it or something like that, or screenplay something. One of these guys, anyway, had this obsession on Twitter years ago with calling me a fucking Nazi and all this kind of stuff. And he, I remember, who was it? At some point, I had this tweet, which it was part of that. I've mentioned this before, that Irish Times article where they came out and said I was terrible and racist and all this stuff. And one of their little screenshots, it was a surreal article they did, but it was trying to pin out anything they could on me. I am arriving at a point here, trust me. One of their things was I said something about Charlottesville, and then the other aspect, the other thing, they kind of were mistaking me on that. You know what I mean? They took 2 tweets as their evidence that I was terrible and kind of put them out of context. But one of those things was relating to Charlottesville, and the other thing was me describing right-wing politics in a kind of a really autistic-y, kind of like nerdy way, saying that, I've said this before, but that you have your libertarian right and then you have your hardcore nationalist right. And at each end, you can have those things be very extreme. Hardcore libertarian on one end and basically national socialist on the other. Someone on Twitter asked me, well, where would I stand? And I said, I'd be in between those 2 things. But silly me, I said I would be in between libertarian and national socialist. And what they took that to mean, or well, like they pretended to for the audience or for whoever the fuck they're doing this for, they said, oh, he said he's a national socialist or something like that, right? Anyway, some of these tweets had been screenshotted from like 3 years previously or something like that. And I saw the one guy who had given the tweets to share them around the journalists was this little shite. His name is Connor. He's on Twitter. He's a little fucking... Sorry, I have to be careful. I could have gone way off there. He's this sad arse basically on Twitter, right? This kind of a fellow who calls himself an actor. Looks depressed, which is fine. But so I saw that he had something to do with it. But the main thing I noticed was that these pictures that were going around, these screenshots of these old tweets, years and years old, they were like 3 years old at this point, from 2017 or something, which feels like a long time ago, And yet someone way back then, way before I made videos or did any of that, cared to put these away in a little file somewhere, in a little vault somewhere, strangely enough. But that guy was the same guy who would always call me, he would be like, you're such a this and that. He had this obsession, and he was, I think, a guy who had something to do with Garage and Adam and Paul, a screenwriter, cinematographer, I don't care. But it was that guy in some of the screen grabs that were going around among these journalists and stuff. It was that guy's account was attached to it. And I was like, that fucker, that little bastard, excuse my language, save that and whatever. So my feelings on something like Adam and Paul, if I were to watch it now and I were to find myself enjoying it, I'd be enjoying it begrudgingly because of that kind of stuff. But whatever, I could still enjoy a film. So Adam and Paul, I haven't seen it in years. I remember enjoying it, kind of enjoying it the first time I saw it. What else have we got? So that was a little deviation there for you lads. There's one here called an independent film. I think it looks like a really cheap, low budget kind of one, but it's called Fatal Deviation. Again, I'd be more interested in seeing that than I would Michael Collins, because that's what I'm trying to get at. Are there ones we don't know about, some little gems, some buttes? There's loads here. Someone says Angela's Ashes, and for all of its beating Irish people down and making Ireland look like it had a horrific history, like uniquely sad kind of history and dirty and poor and awful, which, is never going to be the case. It's never going to be black and white like that. But Angela's Ashes does put it across as pretty grim, and I think that's bad for the Irish psyche. And it's probably not as true to reality as it could be. It's a bit over the top. But I do like Angela's Ashes. I think it's really, really well. Someone says, Gerard, you love Cockamillish. That's funny because I was a couple of minutes late because I was actually eating a bit of cake. But true story. But I do like Angela's Ashes. I think it's so well done, and there are bits of it, for all its sadness and its grimness and whatever you could say about it politically or propagandistically. It's a really good film. To me, I really enjoy watching it. I just think it's fantastic. I haven't seen it in a while now, so I can't go into like getting poetic about it. I kind of forget it a little bit, but I really like it. People are mentioning Black 47, and I watched about an hour of that and I got bored. So you can hate me if you want. You can unsubscribe. You can do whatever you need to do. But maybe I need to give it another chance. Maybe it's like one of those bands. I'm still acting that way about Radiohead. I still have that position on Radiohead where I'm like going, people seem to say they're excellent. I can never really seem to understand it. But because so many people say it's good, I'm willing to entertain the possibility that maybe I'm not getting it, and maybe I sometime will. Yeah, people are laughing at the unsubbing thing. But really, though, do subscribe if you're not. So what was I kind of talking about? Black 47 and Radiohead. Yeah, there's some of those things that I honestly don't enjoy, but maybe it's my fault. Now back to the list on Twitter that people give me. The Butcher Boy I love. The Butcher Boy is mental. It's just crazy and disturbing. What else have we got? In the Name of the Father. Yeah, that's good. I like, my favorite bit in the Name of the Father is if anybody in the chat remembers it, you'll get what I'm talking about, but most of you probably won't because it's a fine little detail. I'm not an acting connoisseur. I don't know. My thing with acting is if like it looks fake, it's bad acting. If I believe it, if it looks like it's really the person they're pretending to be, then it's kind of good acting. I don't really see much difference beyond that. But that said, in the Name of the Father, there's that bit where Daniel Day-Lewis, whatever his character is, Danny or whatever. I'm hoping I'm talking about the right one, where they go to England and get locked up for being the Ra when they're not the Ra, something like that. But him and his buddy are just over in England. They're not there long, and they're staying in their aunt's house or something in London, and she gives them something to eat. I don't know what happens exactly, but she gives them something to eat or whatever, and they're either stoned or they're just messing around and trying to act good in front of the aunt. But at some point, they start laughing. That kind of laugh you do when you're not meant to laugh, and it's the most real thing ever. That laugh, they're kind of mucking around in her kitchen, and I like tracked back over that and rewound it and been like, how the hell do they do that? Unless it was real and it was a natural moment. It's one of those moments. It is something to do with the sausages. Wolfhound says the sausages. Yeah, it's something to do with that. I remember just being like, that's cool. Like, so yeah, that film's kind of done really. I wasn't expecting. Yeah, it was good acting, but it's like a rare moment where it like isn't only good. It's like it's not just good acting, like a scene where you're like acting a little bit dramatic or something like that. It's where the laugh is almost like a visceral, physical response that I would have thought you could never muster up something like that, quite exactly like that, true to real life. But it does. So it's that kind of physical aspect of it. Gail Naharan says, did you hear about UN tanks being in Ireland now? Apparently they're there all the time. So there isn't a UN takeover going on. I would caution anybody who is concerned about that to it's fine to be concerned about it, but the first question, if I see something happening in the middle of Ireland that seems strange to me, let's say like UN kind of personnel carriers or whatever they're called rolling around, my first question, if I want to know whether it's going to be an Islamic or not an Islamic, that's the other one, UN takeover, whatever, it's kind of all the same, would be, does that happen all the time, or is that just happening now? Because if it's just happening now, then the process of investigation and concern should continue. But if it happens all the time, then, unless you have a problem with it happening all the time, in which case you should be concerned all the time. But that should be your first question. And it's not a hard question to ask yourself and to pursue the answer to that question. But to just have someone tweet it out and to just go, oh my God, there's a takeover going on. You have to be better than that. You can't be misled so easily. You deserve better than people telling you that when they know it's not true, and you should do better than to believe that. And if not for the reason that if something ever does happen, then we need to know truth from bullshit, basically. But and Gail Naharan says again, I don't like the UN being in Ireland. Again, that's a different position. You don't like the UN being in Ireland ever. Let's say fine, but that could have been said a year and a half ago. Do you